Rohit.
Yeah, Andrew, I was wondering, when you talk about men who have gone too much towards the feminine, because I know we've all been trying to find our balance in this new and changing world. We've been trying to figure out how not to be abusive and hurtful to women, but at the same time, we might have gone a little too far. So I love what you're bringing up out here, and I'm trying to look at, how is it that you find yourself coming back into a more masculine energy, and how does it play out with other men? How do you find yourself interacting? You talked about some of that kind of interaction. What does that look like um, in practical terms?
Yeah. Well, then, it's really interesting because like I said before, I've around other masculine men in the past, I used to go feminine to make sure I didn't create a fight because I thought it was just totally wrong to fight. But men are not all fighting. If they were, we'd have a really bloody, broken society in general. What men are doing is they're testing each other's edge. They're bumping up against each other to see, where do you really reside? Is this a face? Is this a false mask? Or is this where you actually
So they
are?
want to know the real you is what you're saying.
Yes.
So
And
that's really what that's about.
right. And women in contrast, they have a lot of different images. They have a lot of different faces that they're playing with, and it's sort of, mysterious with other women. I think
Their
with women,
mystique. That is part of their charm and their beauty.
it is. It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
But
men,
when
what's
women
very
fight with each other, it's more of a like a magical, magician show, and they don't know, they're not hitting each other physically. It's more strategic and whatnot. When men want to challenge each other, they go right up against each other and they test each other's steel.
So what does that mean in real terms? Let's say when you're with a man like that. What does that really mean in practical terms? Are you guys wrestling? Are you fighting? What are you doing?
Yes. um,
Tell me
when
more.
I was literally yes, and I think you need to do it literally to know what it feels like, to know
Uh,
what that really is. Um,
is that aggressive? Is that angry? Is that
it's not necessarily angry. In fact, anger is not really. I think anger is more of the storm of the feminine than anything. The masculine is this strong, testing ground. It's like when you really you're seeing, is this where the rock ends, or will this chip off when I hit it? And so when I was younger, I had a lot of tests with other men, and I was always challenging other men's strength and power, and they would usually crumble. I was a little bit of a bully when I was little, and uh, so you have a fight, and you've heard this story many times before. Two men like come together and they're testing each other, and who's at the head of the wolf pack here, who's really got more seniority here, and they literally get into a fight, and when the fight's over, they're like, "You're all right, man. You're all right," and then they become friends for like the rest of their lives because they were testing the truth of the other man, and when they found it, they're like respectful. They're like, "Yeah, you're cool, man. You didn't back down. You didn't act like a little wuss. You stood up to me even though you knew I was a formidable foe, and we sparred, and in the end we realized we're kind of equal. We're in the same realm, and I respect that. I don't need to put you down. You don't need to put me down. We can be bros."
hmm Yeah, I remember having that experience with a roommate once, many years ago, where he would always be coming and bugging me in the middle of the night, knocking at 3 o'clock. Hey, how's it going? I'm sleeping, man. I was studying in those years, and I was like, going to school and stuff, and professional training stuff. And then he was waking me up. I had to go to school in the morning. Um, this happened a number of times. Then borrowing money, then this, then that. After a number of occasions, I remember just standing up to him and saying, you will not do this. You will damn well not come here and knock on my door, not now, not ever. He looked at me very miffed for a moment, and then he came up to me and gave me a hug. And he says, I've been waiting for the time when you would come up and you would stand up to me. I said, oh, so you were being my coach. But now I get it. Now I get what you're saying. He was being more than just the coach. He was actually just finding where those limits are so that he could have a much clearer sense of who I am. And
Because you don't want the fake image. You don't respect the mask.
hmm, okay. No, to me, the qualities of patience, tolerance, and so on have been seen as spiritual virtues. They've been seen as something very important to have. But I think it's very important to know how to play what role in what context. and in which environment, and to be a master of all those different possibilities, rather than just be in one possibility where you're just, for example, being tolerant and patient and so on. But you also need to know how to stand up. You also need to know how to be assertive. You also need to know how to be angry when required, not necessarily at all times, because then then you're not a master of the field. You're just one-dimensional, always being angry, for example, always being patient.
Sure. If let's say you're going into a bar, let's say you go into a bar and you're looking at all the hot ladies, and you're ignoring the men because you don't really want to relate with the men. You're not interested in having sex with the men, so you're there for the ladies.
Right.
You have to relate to the men, otherwise they will not respect you. They feel you're fishy. You're sort of coming in there in a manipulative, sort of cagey way. They have no idea who you are or what you're about. They're gonna surround their women and protect them from you because they don't trust you. Just as women will protect their girlfriends from a man who does not show himself, present himself honestly, and make them feel comfortable and appreciated. So you've got to spar with the other men in the group, in your tribe, in order to be accepted and safe. If you constantly need to only relate with women, well then it's an incomplete. It's not a balanced act, and people are gonna have issues with you.
Right.
But not to mention that, I mean, men sharpen each other's edges when they spar. When men get together, it's a great mirror. It's a wonderful mirror to being a man. A woman can't give you that. A woman can give you a feminine perspective on your masculine, but they can't give you the male-to-male viewpoint.
Right.
And when men really bro together, and sometimes that's watching football, drinking beers. It's better when you're playing sports or actually doing something aggressive and trying to push your skills or really challenge your courage. Things that are archetypally masculine. To do that with other men is a wonderful thing. And the beautiful thing about men coming together to spar is that they do not absorb your energy. They deflect it and they bounce it back at you.
Nor do they hold on to the fact that that you happen to have a really rough, sparring or fighting or whatever it was, or some competitive thing that you did, but rather it's felt in the moment and released right there. It's not held on to in any way as being wrong or bad or
That's right.
Or you hit me in the face,
Right. And you don't have to be physically violent to spar with men. I mean, let's say you're a much smaller man and you're dealing with like big athletes or something. Simply holding your own with them.
But I think verbally sparring can be equally powerful.
Yes.
Or intellectually sparring, or through jokes, or through any other, or humor, or whatever, or through sarcasm for that matter.
Yeah.
They can all be equally powerful ways of sparring.
Yep.
I also feel that a distinction needs to be made between a more as the evolutionary male evolves into the non-controlling, dominating, macho kind of expression, to a more polished, refined, and yet masculine energy. I think that needs to emerge out of all of this. It doesn't always have to be primitive and primal, though that might help reconnect in the initial stages. I think all of us as men need to work on phase 2 or 3 or 4 of this, which is to find what is the more evolved masculine in its full expression.
Yeah, because when you really explore your masculine and your feminine, and the whole spectrum is covered, then you have that flexibility of, as like you said, mastery to move, to toggle between extremes at the right times, and it makes you incredibly powerful, incredibly strong to be able to calm your woman down in the face of great adversity with your masculine, and then to find and then to pull into your feminine to embrace her when she's broken or when there's something else going on that needs that sensitivity. That makes you just a far more.
Sometimes you might need that sensitivity. You might need that emotional support.
Definitely.
Rather than trying to be the invincible masculine who is never perturbed by anything, who is always, on top of his game, and who's always the greatest and the best.
That is the mask. That is definitely the mask.
That's the mask.
And any woman who really wants that mask as their partner is deluded, because it doesn't exist. It's not that's a fake face. It is non-existent. You have to be able, if you want your man to be powerful and masculine, you have to bring it all. You have to be able to embrace his feminine as well.
Right. So. Okay, great.
Thanks, Rohit.
Okay, wonderful talk.